Beautiful day, Patriots. How are you? This is part 7 of slaughterhouses. And we're talking about, in the Q community, the corn is ready for harvest, right? For 4 years, everybody knows what this means. The corn is ready to harvest. And then we see our politicians use that. They actually use those terms, correct? So I just watched a video, put it on Twitter. You can look at it. So we're jumping off of his ideas. I saw a picture. We're going to go look at this. Iowa is the most, I've got these by census. These numbers don't mean anything, don't worry. It's how populated they are in the 2020 census. Iowa produces the most corn than any other state, right? And the corn is ready to harvest. So we've been looking at missions and cathedrals. We've been doing a lot of things, but we've been looking at language. We've been doing a lot of things and studying. But now we're looking at, off of what he was just showing, we're going to go look at the state capitals. Okay, and Iowa is the corn capital, right? They produce corn. It's not like there's a lot of, there we go. In 2020, it was the 31st ranked of population. California being first, Texas being second. There's 30 other states that have more people in it, okay? And now we're going to go look at historic photos of Iowa. Iowa first state capital. Iowa, corn. And we can see these guys here, and this is from the archives, historical photos of the Iowa state capital. And we can see a few people out here working, sitting on the job, nothing's changed. Building these crude walls, walk walls, just regular mason brickwork. And if we look back here, it's not going to show. Look at the domes of these things. Look at the size of this. Cranes. What kind of cranes? That's not a crane. Now, again, we're going to go look at this, and we're going to ask ourselves. These are the state capital in Iowa. The very first pictures, black and white. Look at the size of these things. I'm telling you it's a state capital, but is that not the same looking building all over the world of a cathedral or their state capitals? Or you can say no, that looks like American design. That's an American design. Lloyd Wright, Franklin Lloyd Wright is considered an American designer. There's nothing American about that. Absolutely nothing American about that. In the sense of a style. Old, huge, black and white, legislative, construction, and earlier buildings. Horse and buggy, beginning of time of our American history. Nobody's there but farmers making corn, horse and buggy. What kind of a crane did they have to do this kind of work? Not only that, that this is what our tax dollars have always been doing. Are you kidding me? Because the governor didn't make that, and the mayor doesn't make these buildings for himself. It's funded by the tax dollar. Is this what our first dollars in taxation? No taxation without representation, and we walked right into this? And again, why is it not some sort of American style? Look at these buildings. Okay, I think I can get back to something. A few people out front. Iowa legislator, Senate, and House chambers. At the very beginning of our history, this building here. Tax dollars had to pay for this. We don't make buildings like this nowadays. With these big old Iowa State Capitol. That's a European castle. That's a slaughterhouse. It's a slaughterhouse. These domes. How did we make these? It's the same story that NASA says we flew to the moon, and I'm not doubting that. But what they're saying is that they don't have the actual mathematical equations anymore of how it was done. It got lost. It got lost in history. That was just in the 1960s. They lost it in 30, 40 years. They say they can't remember. One of the most greatest achievements of all time. These are state capitol buildings. I mean, they say when they built them and stuff. That's not a cathedral, huh? Are you sure we haven't been conquered before? Look at this. Gold dome. These are old buildings. Even though we can see them in color here. But the black and whites. And then again, so let's ask ourselves, if this is our state capitol building built, in the 1800s, late 1800s, this is what we were doing with our tax dollar? Or did somebody come in and steal a bunch of America's history and then take these buildings and say they're something else? Like Congress had to vote and approve this, and then the people had to sit there and be taxed and watch their tax dollars building these buildings and then support and vote those same people into office. And that might be the case, but it must have been a very prosperous time. These are now our state capitol buildings, looking like rich castles. And again, this is just in Ohio. This is just Ohio's state capitol buildings. Really? Oh, okay, I guess that's a crane, sure. That crane then built all this stuff up here. Again, and the reason why, I'm showing this stuff like this and why we're doing these lessons is because people are fighting for, Q and President Trump or politics. And those politicians are the ones that were the conquerors that came in and stole our history. And all the American people that live here are slaves. And they want you to be unaware of that you used to have this type of buildings in your past. Iowa, this is all, how many rooms is in this building at this point in time where they needed that much legislative personnel? Where did all this work come from, the skilled labor work? They say these things in these buildings, they say they put these buildings up in under 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Is that possible? I don't know. If you have too many people on a job site, you can't get actual things done. So then, here's our U.S. state capitol. They tell us when it was built. They show us when it was built and stuff. I get that. It's all historical documents. It all makes sense. Why we would need a building of such grandeur at a time in our history that was so dangerous and so virgin in a sense. There was nothing here. We were conquering every single thing. Every single step along the way had to be blood, sweat, and tears. And yet, they don't want us to see these incredible